Well, good evening. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Yeah. Welcome to Local Church. My name is Taylor Shear. Me and my wife have the honor and privilege. My wife, Cassie, was normally sitting there, but we had some kids that decided to throw up last night. And you say aw. You should be saying aw for me, who at 2:30 had to go up and deal with it. As Charleston, our 2.5-year-old, just said, "Dad, I spit on Minnie." And I was like, "Why'd you spit on Minnie? It's not nice." And then she said, "Spit on my hair," and I realized what she was talking about as my hands were going through it. It was, it's one of those, like, well, I'm a parent. Like, this is normal, come to find out. So she is at home with them, but I want to thank you guys, first off, for being here. Like I say, most of the time it'd be a bummer if no one was here, so thank you. And real quick, I want to just give a little bit of praise to our worship band and the tech guys. They really are awesome. So it's this whole Tuesday, so we only have it on Tuesdays. So we meet at 7 a.m. and go all day. And I want to make sure to give them a shout out, Zach and Josh, Nikki. Let's give them a round of applause. Come on. And then the band, great job. So tonight, and as we started the local church, we really wanted to focus on series and just being series oriented in the sense of that we have a common theme that we're talking about and that we can really dig deep into and get into. And I'm learning that I love being in series, but then coming up with the series, I've come up with a few. The only issue is I feel like this pressure that my wit really has to show through the name of the series. Anybody tracking with me here? Like you can't like talk about the fruits of the Spirit, and that was one of the things I want to do, and then like call it fruits of the Spirit. Like you got to come up with a witty name. So we're going to be starting a series in 2 weeks. Not totally sure what to call it yet, but it is going to be witty once I talk to my friends, and they can help me. But no, we're going to just really dive into the life of Daniel. And it's funny because I told the band and the tech guys we have a meeting before service, and I mentioned I was doing that, and of course Josh brought up that I was going to be talking about end times. It's not the case. I'm not going to be doing that. We're just going to be looking at the life of Daniel. So that's going to be starting in 2 weeks. We're going to have a very very fun, trendy name that we're going to title it. It'll be 6-7 weeks long, and I'm really excited about it. Just basically using it as an example to how we live life now and how life is now. That's kind of the flow that I've been in my walk with the Lord, in my prayer time, in just getting into the Word. It's been, how do you meld these two together? And this is something that's been on my heart for sure, because just with the natural local church, that it's how do you have culture, and I would say most of, if not all the time, goes against the Word and how we're supposed to live, and how what we know to be right and wrong, and the moral compass that we have, that it goes against that. And yet we live in times that are so polarizing that if somebody's opposite of you, we can't, not only we don't have ears to hear them, but we gain this anger or this distaste towards them, and that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be walking in love, and just how to operate and go through life and still be true to who you are and who you're supposed to be and what the Word says about you, but then also to be relatable to people. So starting in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing that. I'm very, very excited for that. So, and again, we'll come up with a witty title. So we're going to dive in tonight I titled this message Chaos, and it's really just stems from kind of it echoes what I was saying about the Daniel series, but it's how do you react when chaos hits? How do you live in a life of chaos? How can there be peace and chaos at the same time? How can we go through life and experience everything that we experience and deal with everything we deal with? And just like Katie said during the Prophesy Your Promise, it's that you might be in a storm, you might be in a battle, you might be in a full-out war, but yet the Lord still makes a table for you amongst your enemies. And it's such a cool promise to hold on to, because no matter what's going on, there's that peace can still be there. That peace is a man, and that's Jesus. It's not a feeling. It's not based on circumstances. It's not just this fleeting thought. That it's a man, and that's how we can really be in a life of chaos, or the world can be chaotic, but we can still be at peace in that situation. So we're going to be reading out of 1 Samuel. Just going to be using this. We're going to talk just through some of 1 Samuel and just how Hannah responds, what she goes through, and then how she responds, and then Samuel coming in. So 1 Samuel, it opens with very contrasting narratives. It's the corrupt religious leaders who were taking advantage of the people, and then a faithful family who was serving God. That it's the life of chaos and then a life of the kingdom, and how those two coincide. So in 1 Samuel, just to give you a little bit of background on this, so Elkanah is so faithful, and that's the groundwork that it sets at the beginning of 1 Samuel. It talks about how every year he comes in. So he had two wives. He had Hannah, who was barren and had no children. And then his other wife had multiple kids. So he brought his family to the temple every year, and then he gave them sacrifices that they would bring and give a sacrifice to the Lord. Well, this was a time that I can't imagine what or how Hannah felt, throughout all of life, but then more specifically in that moment, that every year she's reminded how she isn't able to have kids and she has not produced any kids, and that, she's reminded every day, but it's so prevalent at this time. But she still comes and she is faithful to the Lord. She still gives the sacrifice to God and prays, and really gives this time to the Lord. Eli and his sons are corrupt, and those are the religious leaders of that time, and the kingdom is in chaos. So the first passage we're going to read is out of 1 Samuel 1:3. 1 Samuel 1:3. Each year, Elkanah would travel to Shiloh to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of heaven's armies at the temple. The priests of the Lord at the time were the two sons of Eli. Verses 1 Samuel 1:10, 11, and then we're going to read 15 and 17. So to give you a little preface to this, so he had two wives, and I want to say it's Peninnah is how you say it, but I'm not totally sure. But that would be his other wife. And she had kids, but Hannah did not. She would not only bring it up, and so Elkanah would come and he would bring a sacrifice, and he would give it to both of his wives to sacrifice, and then he would also then give his children those. So it was very prevalent to Hannah that it was her and only her. And then she has to deal, they're sitting at the dinner table and they're eating and talking, and Peninnah then goes and starts making fun of and mocking Hannah because of the situation that she's in. That as a woman, she is made to be a mother, and she is not able to do that. Yet that is the desire of her heart. She's in this situation where she wants to have kids, but then cannot. And not only to add on to that, They come to the temple and she is only given one thing to sacrifice because she has no kids, which is another reminder. But then her husband's other wife is mocking her and making fun of her and bringing up the fact that she cannot have kids. So Hannah, at this point, cannot eat. It says that she is deeply anguished, and she was crying bitterly as she prayed to the Lord. Verse 11, and she made this vow, O Lord of heaven's armies, if you will look upon my sorrow and answer my prayer and give me a son, then I will give him back to you. He will be yours for his entire lifetime. And as a sign that he is dedicated to the Lord, his hair will never be cut. So she is at a breaking point, at a point of literal rock bottom where she just cries out to God, asking for a son. And then even to show that, says he will be yours, and he will be only yours for his entire lifetime. And to prove that, he won't cut his hair. He'll never cut his hair. So this was the Nazirite vow was one that was not weak. It was not to be taken lightly. They did not cut their hair. They did not partake in alcohol. They lived a life of true holiness. So she was saying, if you give me a son, I will give him back to you, and he will live this vow, this life of holiness. Verse 15. So she is in praying. Eli hears her, lets her pray. She is on her knees crying out to God, and she's praying and she's moving her mouth, but no words come out. So the priest looks at her and assumes that she is drunk, calls her out, and then this is the response back and forth. Verse 15, "Oh no, sir," she replied, "I haven't been drinking wine or anything stronger, but I'm very discouraged, and I was pouring out my heart to the Lord. Don't think I am a wicked woman, for I have been praying out of great anguish and sorrow." "In that case," Eli said, "go in peace. May the God of Israel grant the request that you have asked of him." When earlier, what Katie said and then what I echoed, that there's storms, there's battles, and there's wars, and that's how I break it down in my head, that there's severity of that. That when you're in that moment that you're crying out to God, you've hit rock bottom, you don't know where you're going to go from here, you don't know how it's going to look, and you're at a point that you're so broken down that you don't even know what to do, that you get on your knees, you cry out to God, and nothing comes out. That's such a level of passion and of intensity that I don't know if we get to that often. But when we do, take the thought of this scenario and understand that God hears you when you cry out to him. When you're in a place where you have no other options, that Jesus is still the option. He is the only option. That no matter what, it's going to work out for you. It might not be how you see it or in the time frame that you want it to be, but it is going to work out for you. God has a call for you. There is a call on your life. You are equipped with everything that you need to fulfill that call, and that it's going to work out. But yet we freak out in these situations. We hit a little speed bump, and all of a sudden the world is caving in, but when in all reality, though we live in a world of chaos, but yet we can still sit in complete peace. That no matter what, we know that the Prince of Peace is on the inside of us, and that supernatural peace, that Jehovah Shalom, the God of peace, is on us. That we don't have to worry about the chaos that surrounds us, but yet we can sit in peace. This is a story of a barren, childless woman, and that story is common in Scripture. Sarah was barren before she gave Abraham a son. Later, Elizabeth was barren before she gave birth to John the Baptist. This is a common story, and God proves himself faithful in those stories. It may seem strange that a book of the Bible, like Samuel, it talks about epic priests and kings and battles and giants, but it opens up with a woman in anguish who is barren and is just crying out to God for a son. When you're in that situation and you know that something needs to work out or you desire something, you're at a place that you just cry out to God, that's a great place to be in because it puts you on your knees. It puts you on a place that you are there surrendering to God and watch how he proves himself faithful. This was a remarkable event, and in more ways than just the fact that God healed her and she gave birth to Samuel. This is also the first time in the Bible that it's documented that a woman goes into the temple and prays. What's so cool about that is it's not customary. It wasn't customary at that point. Women did not go into the temple and pray, yet she had hit the point of, I can't do it anymore. I can't live like this anymore. She was to the point where she could not eat. So she went, and in a place of what seemed like despair and anguish, she cried out to God, and God proved himself faithful. God hears your prayers. God hears them. Please don't think that when you're praying that you're just talking to the wall or to the ceiling or to the universe or to whatever weird people think that they're praying to. God hears your prayers. He cares about you. He does. To the point that he hears them and he is faithful and he's never going to let you down and he is always going to come through. When was the last time that you prayed with such honesty, conviction, and boldness? There's a place that you're in a situation and you pray knowing that, listen, I'm putting my foot down. Because when it comes down to it, when we get hit with situations, there's a fight or flight mentality is what education would tell you. It's what psychology would tell you, that there's fight or flight when things happen. I want to be somebody who breaks the mold that when I get hit with something, that there's not a fight, there's not a flight, but there's a getting down on my knees in surrender and knowing that God is in control, that God is not going to let me down, that his promises are true. And just like we sang in the second song, that no matter when I only see in part, I'm still going to prophesy your promise. I'm still going to speak your promise over my life. When things look bleak, when things look like they're not going to work out, I still stand and I prophesy your promise that you are that things are going to work out for my good, that you are for me and not against me, that I have a future and a hope. I hope somebody's here tonight. It'd be good if this is a good message, so I hope somebody's hearing it. There's another time, and I just want to bring this up, when Jesus was in the garden right before he was set to be crucified. He went, he told his disciples to pray and that he was going to go pray. And in Matthew 26, 38 and 39, he told them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." He went a little further and bowed his face to the ground, praying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done and not mine." Please don't think that it's bad for you to pray in a place of, I don't have any other options. Oh, I really don't want to do this. I really need this to work out for me. Don't think that that's bad. Jesus did it. Right before he knew what he had to do, but yet he still cried out, "Father, please take this cup from me, but if it be your will." That he wanted his will to be done and not his own. Hebrews 5:7. While Jesus was here on earth, he offered prayers and pleadings with a loud cry and tears to the one who could rescue him from death. And God heard his prayers because of his deep reverence for God. It's interesting that in this time, in this culture that we have, that what seems like all of our, as a Christian, that your morality is being questioned. That you're not open-minded. That that you're right and nobody else is right, and this is how it is, and everybody else is wrong. And in all reality, that's the case, but that's how we are made to feel. But yet, God calls us to be obedient. Yeah, you can hate the sin, but love the sinner. And that's such a cliche thing to say, but in all reality, that's how I want to live my life. I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't condone what you're doing, but I still love you. You are still a person. God still loves them. Unconditional love. What that means is God loves you and me and the member of ISIS the exact same. It's unconditional. There's still love. When we don't want to think like that, there's still that unconditional love. I want to walk in a place of love. Hannah in this situation is saying, Lord, give me a son, and then I will give him back to you, and he will be yours for his entire life. And then she commits him to this vow of not cutting hair and not drinking alcohol and not doing anything that's unholy. We would view that today as being radical. Would anybody agree with me? I mean, I would view that to be radical. It's like, whoa. So you're a radical is what it comes down to. Well, when we start to think radical, I think of, and I'm just being honest in what I'm thinking here, but I'm thinking, somebody who takes stuff too far. Someone who goes too far on things, someone who's a little too serious. They are completely sold out to it. That is what I'm thinking of being, they're being dramatic, maybe brave. But that is what we think of when we think of radical. But radical comes from the Latin word radix, which means root. So what that means is when we are rooted, then you're radical. That when you're rooted in God, then you're a radical. Because you are rooted in, that's how it is. You know where you stand, you know what you believe, then you are a radical for that. And God hears radical prayers. Later on, a grown Samuel has to confront King Saul, who has grown more religious and less obedient. Saul was losing his root. He was no longer rooted. He is no longer obeying God, and that ended up being his downfall. 1 Samuel 15:22, but Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams. Yes, they brought sacrifices in. They came in, but even here it says that obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams. That's what the Lord is looking for us, submission and obedience. Even when we don't like it. My dad, who's in the back row, that is all I heard growing up. You may not like it, but you're going to do it because I'm submitted, because I'm obedient. Might not have been all the time, had to be brought back into course, but how many of us is that in life? You're going. You make one bad decision, you're disobedient in one place, and all of a sudden it rocks you and knocks you back way further back than you needed to go. But you stay the course, that you're obedient and submissive to what God tells us to be. To being submissive is it's giving God your life. This doesn't mean that we want you to quit your job and go off on some mission, but really what it is that your life is a mission. That your world is the mission field. Your sphere is that mission field. That you're submitted to the call that God has placed on your life. God is calling all of us into ministry, and that might not be full-time ministry. It might be ministry in your life, but the Bible tells us to be the salt and the light. That you're going into your workplace, into your school, into your family, and being that light. God is repairing the broken places. Just like with Hannah. Her womb was broken. She cried out to God. God came in and fixed that. He repaired that womb. And then she gave birth to Samuel. God, He's repairing those broken places in our lives and giving us a greater capacity to receive the harvest. I don't know what season you're in, but trust me, the harvest is going to be well worth whatever season you're in. You might be in a season of pruning where it feels like you are getting corrected or things are being brought up and it feels like it's just constant and constant and constant. But before a tree can grow, it has to be pruned. What if you're being pruned to put you in a place in life to where you truly are walking in the call that God's placed on your life? What an unbelievable place to be in. But yet, we want to get mad because there's correction and things coming, whether it be from God, your boss, your family, your significant other, your friends. But we want to take it like, why? It really does make you better. For instance, me and Cass, so we started saying at the beginning of our relationship that we weren't going to keep anything. Like if something bothered you, say it. Like, for instance, we really didn't fight when we were dating. When we got engaged, we had a massive fight, and we were at my house, and she went into another room, and I'm the man, so I walked in, and I was like, hey, get back in here. So she sat down where she was. So I sat down where she was also. And I run the house, let's be honest. But but we were talking, and she said, no, I don't want to talk about that right now. We'll talk about it later. I'm too mad. And I finally looked at her, I said, hey, do you see that ring that I put on your finger? That means that I'm in this for life. I'm sorry that you said yes. You can't ever leave now. You're stuck. You all of it. It's all yours. But I said, let's figure out what we need to figure out. Talk about the stuff that bothers you, that things that I do that are wrong. Let's talk about it, because I don't want you walking off and cooling down and then not really telling me what is going on. And then 6 months later, we have to deal with the same stuff because we didn't address it when it came up. Why? We always have the same argument. Quit having the same argument again. Talk about it. Figure it out. Find a place. So we said that through our relationship, we're going to point out things to make each other better. I'm not the best at it. I get it. I have said 0 things to her. She tells me like 10 every day. And then I fix one and boom, there's another one added to the list. It is literally like the top 10. It just runs. It's this cycling deal. And I get so frustrated. I'm like, did you not see that you brought this up and then I fixed it and we no longer deal with it? Where's the praise? You said, I take the trash out, but I don't put a trash bag back in when I'm done. I do now. Why? Because I'm the glue of our home. That's why. Somebody has to be. I can say all this because she's not here. So that's awesome. Anyways. But I'm like, do you not see that? And she's like, no, I do. Thank you. That is awesome. Now let's go on to the next. And I'm obviously frustrated. Because for me, there's like a million things to fix. For her, there's like a half a thing to fix. But I get so frustrated, and she always says one little sentence to me in this situation. She goes, hey, I'm just trying to make you better. And it's a gut check. It's like, oh yeah. That's the pruning time. It's making me better, that we don't have to deal with the stuff that we dealt with in the beginning of our relationship or of our marriage, because we dealt with it when we needed to deal with it and we moved on. I don't want to look back and think, okay, the last 10 years I'm dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with 10 years ago. But we don't give that place to people for them to give us that insight and see the spots that we can't see and help us fix those issues. I don't want to deal with the same issue in 2029 that I'm dealing with in 2019. If so, what is the point? At that point, you're just living to die. Like, I'm out on that. But I want to make myself better. I want to move forward, that I want that harvest on the other side to be as big as it could possibly be. I want your harvest to be as big as it could possibly be on that other side. So let God deal with what he needs to deal with you. God is calling all of us out of the ordinary, the predictable, the familiar, into a radical life of obedience. Matthew 5:5 said, God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. The humble, the people who are rooted, can still thrive in a world of chaos. That's good news for somebody. Being rooted in a church, in the Word, in God's promise, you can thrive in a world of chaos. All you have to do is submit and be obedient. 1 Samuel 2:1-2, and I'm going to end with this. He says, my heart rejoices in the Lord. The Lord has made me strong. Now I have an answer for my enemies. I rejoice because you rescued me. No one is holy like the Lord. No one besides you. There is no rock like our God. And we've all heard, what do you build in your house on? What's your foundation? Build it on the rock. Be rooted in the rock. Then when the storms come, when the battles come, when you're in a full-out war, you know where you're rooted. You know. So it does not matter what is going on. You know the promises. Whether you see it, feel it, doesn't matter. You're still prophesying that promise. There's a promise for whatever you are dealing with. And I promise you it's better than whatever you're dealing with in your own head. God loves you. He cares about you. He has equipped you with everything that you need to fulfill your call. All you have to do is be submissive and obedient.